Hello and welcome to episode 209 of Sutton Impact Family Style and NCAA opening weekend tournament. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill, and I've been enjoying the opening weekend tournament. I really enjoyed watching a couple upsets and a couple near upsets, and watched Oklahoma State struggle because Cade Cunningham struggled. But if your best player struggles and you still win, that means the guys around you are all freshmen and sophomores. That means they're getting better and the future looks good.
It does.
So I'm excited about Oklahoma State playing Oregon State today. I think it'll be a good game. And then if they win, they have to play Illinois, which would be Mike Boynton against the guy that hired him at Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and hopefully he calms down.
That's a good story.
Yeah.
It's a good story.
I mean, he's still probably the number one pick no matter what, but it'd be nice to see him have a nice big tournament game.
It would. I mean, he disappointed a lot of people. A lot of broadcasters mentioned that, wow, they just didn't see what happened. They couldn't understand it. But, I mean, come on, he missed his first 5 or 6 shots and then got 2 quick fouls, and he sat out about 8 minutes of the first half.
Yeah.
But then coming down the stretch, and when he needed him, he was hitting every free throw and banging a couple threes. And that put the game away. It was a close game. And then he did take charge toward the end. But, again, every time he touches the ball, he's got 2 guys on him. Every time.
Every time.
Every time. And in the NBA, when he goes to the NBA, that's not going to happen. And he's a great passer. So it's going to be really interesting to see, how well he plays next year wherever he plays. And, that's the one thing. I mean, he's going to be playing on an extremely bad team. I guess he could be on I know the draft is weighted, but I guess right now you'd have to think he'd be on the Timberwolves, right?
As of right now, I think so. I mean, like you said, it's not as easy to get the number one pick as it used to be.
No.
So you never know who ends up in that number one spot. There's a lot of bad teams. Yeah. It's hard to say, but yeah, I think for a guy that since before the season started was the preemptive number one pick, I think he's had a nice season. But I know from just listening to a few other NBA podcasts, like people are wanting to see see him just go out and just destroy people, especially in the tournament. Not that he hasn't had a couple games during the season, but they wanted to, if you're the number one consensus, number one overall pick, and you're this 6'8" point guard, people really want to see it.
Yeah, it's just that team is so young. I mean, they start a junior, 2 freshmen, sometimes 3 and a sophomore, or 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores.
Yeah.
So I mean, they start a bunch of really young age-wise people, not even school-wise people, but age-wise people. Looking forward to seeing the Zags play Oklahoma today, or tomorrow, I'm sorry. I think that'll be a test. I really do.
I think it's a huge test.
I'm looking forward to Illinois and Loyola today.
Yeah.
I think that'll be a good game. It's kind of weird, though. I mean, it's weird that the fans aren't there and you're not getting all the other things you get, and then all the games are in Indiana, so that means which is interesting because then, if you got the 9:40 game, because almost all the teams on the West Coast are playing the late game.
Right.
All the teams from the West Coast playing the late game. But it's really not that time to you. It's not, it's late for you. It's not like it's a 6:40 game on the West Coast.
No.
It is a 6:40 game on the West Coast, but you're not playing it. You're playing the 9:40 equivalent game. So you're playing a late game. So we'll have to see what happens and see how that goes.
And I was talking to you before we started on the podcast, and we have probably like 160 to 180 people of regular cast and crew on the TV show. They put out a sign for a week that was like, $20 NCAA pool. They got 12 people this year. And we have a lot more sports fans, obviously, being New Orleans. We don't have a big college basketball team down here, but a big sports program. A lot of people said they just didn't watch any college basketball this year. They didn't feel like they knew anything. And they just weren't hyped. They said the tournament just sort of, came up on them and they weren't ready for it. And then, I think, Eastern Washington with the Groves brothers who kind of captured their attention for a little bit.
Yeah.
Those of those little stories we're missing this year in the tournament. I know we have some, but the guy that looks like a Sasquatch, Bill Walton and his brother, if they had advanced to the Sweet 16, that's a nice, fun story for people to, goof around with on SportsCenter. We'll have to see if one develops, but
There's some guards that talk some smack after they after
Yeah.
the team upset, like North Texas guard and Ohio's guard. I mean, there was some. I don't know what their names were, but I just caught them on TV. They were talking some serious smack. So there's some personality involved. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. But the Groves brothers also they've got a goofy look that people,
They did cartoonish look.
cartoonish look. And that's the kind of thing, I mean, you're reminded of the guys from the hockey movie and different, like I said, a Sasquatch, Bill Walton. Like there's some, they had enough of a weird look that, they could have gotten away from Sports Center onto more of the national media, maybe.
And that was the pastiest team I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That was the palest, pastiest team I've ever seen.
Exactly. But I mean, I'm still, I'm trying to get my hype up for it a little bit. I did not participate in the tournament poll this year either. I was not one of the 12 in our thing that did. I hadn't watched enough college basketball to feel confident. And I know people say that that's probably the best time to fill out a bracket. The less you know.
Well, speaking of that, you know how many perfect brackets are left?
0.
And I'll tell you what, if there would have been a perfect bracket left, I'd have been in shock.
Yeah. Well, Oral Roberts was a pretty giant,
Oral Roberts was big, and as was the Abilene Christian over Texas.
Very much so.
Where the guy is at the free throw line, he's a 59% free throw shooter, and he hits both free throws to win the game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great story. I mean, that's a fun story. And I can't even imagine. You saw the death threats for the guys from Ohio State.
That was horrible. Yeah, that's just
ridiculous. And I know Texas won't be much better.
No.
There'll be crazies in Texas because, I mean, that is the preeminent university in that state. I mean, there's Texas and there's everybody else, according to Texas alumni. So, I mean, that loss will really not set well.
No. It will not. And Texas is one of those.
I think that loss was more devastating than the Ohio State loss.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I realize Ohio State is the number one team in that state. But, it just, both of them, I mean, they were just mind-boggling when you have a 2 and a 3 lose games like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I like to see the people that pick the upsets, though. I like to talk to them, see how they figured that out, if they're just throwing darts.
Especially anyone that picked the upset that was not an alum of one of those two schools.
Yeah. Or they just filled out a million brackets.
Trying
to cover their butt any way they could do it.
Exactly.
So yesterday, in between watching basketball, I was when you're on cable, the distance between CBS, TBS, and True, you have to surf through a lot of stations to find True, right?
I would assume so, yes.
So as I'm surfing through, I found the SEC network, and I saw, it said college baseball. So I just flipped on it. It was Vanderbilt, South Carolina. And I thought, I'll just check the score. And last week I talked about Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter as being 1A and 1B in the Major League Baseball draft. Well, yesterday Jack Leiter's turn to pitch. He walked the first batter and retired the next 27 batters in a row. Struck out 16, was throwing mid-90s in the ninth inning, and he threw a no-hitter. I mean, he's a sophomore. He's 20 years old.
Yeah,
So, I mean, he's very, very impressive. And his curveball wasn't working until like the seventh inning. So he got 16 strikeouts, all on fastballs. So I was impressed with both of them last week when I saw them in person. And I was maybe a little bit more impressed with Leiter yesterday because watching on television, I get to see the pitches and I get to see everything much better than I would in the stands. So I was very, very impressed. So I'm really looking forward to the Pirates draft and see who they're going to have for 7 years.
It will be exciting. And again, that's the kind of game, like we were talking about Cade Cunningham, but the Leiter game yesterday, that's the kind of game where you're like, if you're a fan base, you can be like, whoa, knocked out, struck out 16, 27 consecutive batters, mid-90s. I mean, that's something that gets a fan base excited.
Yeah, they're talking that this pairing could be the greatest pairing of college pitchers in college baseball history. And they talk about Garrett Cole, and I forget who the other guy was with Garrett Cole. It's the guy pitching for the Dodgers now too.
Oh, okay.
I mean, they were like the best 1-2 ever until this 1-2. So we'll see.
No, definitely. Well, we had some exciting NFL free agency happening.
Yeah, I'm shocked Kenny Galladay could get 4 years and $75 million. And I realize the Giants need something for Jones, but I'm not sure that's where I would have went with that. I was surprised.
Yeah, because it looks like, I mean, from what everybody says, one of the reasons the wide receiver market seemed like it was down for a while is the draft is obviously stocked with, you know, I think 8 or 9 wide receivers that have different first round grades on them. You have a lot of day 2, day 3 guys that people are just already in love with. You had, you know, the wide receiver position is just stacked right now. And then you had guys like Juju and Kenny Galladay, T.Y. Hilton. You've got a bunch of the guys that are out there that, you know, could be had for a decent price. And, you know, Kenny Galladay got, I mean, it's a huge deal. Because even Juju, who I think, well, Juju's definitely younger, and I think if you look at their numbers, he's been more productive. I think Galladay may be a little more impressive when he's on the field, specimen-wise, but the fact that Juju
was on the field being the operative word,
and Juju doesn't seem to miss much time. So it's hard to imagine that he can get 4 at 71, and Juju was getting basically 8 from 3 different teams and a few different teams for incentives, but all for 1-year deals. And luckily for us, he went back to the Steelers. Turned down the Ravens, turned down the Chiefs. What's that?
I like that movie. I like Juju.
I do too. And if we're going to be stuck with Roethlisberger for another year, I'd like to see Juju out there. And, you know, and the story about him dancing on the logo and the social media stuff, I mean, he's been one of the most productive wide receivers for the last 4 years. Now, obviously, his best season was opposite Antonio Brown, and he probably is a 1B or a really high 2 more so than a 1. But, you know, for 11 weeks, nobody said anything about dancing on the logos before games. And then when they started a 3-game losing streak, all of a sudden it mattered. So it's like, you know, one of those weird stories of, you know, does anybody really care? Until you start looking, you know, throwing stones to try to find something to get mad about.
So I guess T.Y. Hilton is the best available now, right? You would agree with that?
I think so. But like Galladay, he's a little injury prone and he's 31. But, you know, if T.Y. Hilton took, you know, if the Chiefs have that kind of money, and well, Sammy Watkins is out there too, who is another, when he's on the field, he's pretty good. But, yeah, and well, I guess we should take that back. It's clear who the best receiver bull available is, and that's Antonio Brown. Now, he's the most toxic wide receiver that nobody wants to touch because he just can't seem to behave, other than Tom Brady getting him to behave, but he's clearly the best wide receiver available. Because those last few weeks in the playoffs, when he was at Tampa, he started looking like old Antonio Brown again.
So if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, and you obviously are looking for one more receiver, to put Antonio Brown on the field at the same time as Tyreek Hill
and Kelsey,
and the rest of and the tight end and everything else, and you can probably get him for a reasonable 1-year deal with incentives.
Yeah.
Would you do that?
Ooh. I mean, Kansas City has a couple of guys like Tyreek Hill that have some pretty bad backgrounds. So they're obviously not averse to signing guys with character issues. I think I'd still be a little nervous. I mean, I don't think if I'm a good team, unless I'm Tom Brady who has some sort of hold over Antonio Brown, I don't think I'd probably sign Antonio. And I love Antonio Brown as a player. He was one of my favorite Steelers when he played for him. I don't think I'd sign him until after the draft. I'd want to see if we were, if we have,
Oh, that's interesting.
Like if I'm the Chiefs and and somebody falls, like you look at all these great first round wide receivers plus quarterbacks, offensive linemen, whether it's, because you got Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, you got Bateman, you got that kid out of Florida. I mean, you've got just long list of wide receivers. If I'm the Chiefs and one of the guys I really like is there, and I have 5 years of controlled football by a nice young receiver, I might want to do that instead of signing Antonio Brown.
Okay.
And again, I don't know if anyone will be as good as Antonio Brown, but he's clearly proven he's not very mature.
No.
And it doesn't appear he's gotten any sort of, well, I shouldn't say he's not gone for any help. The help seems like it has not really worked. Because he almost blew the thing with Tampa Bay when all he had to do was just stay in his house. All you have to do is stay in your house, your mansion. and he flung a bicycle at his neighbor's house. Like, you know?
Well, while we're talking about ex-Steelers,
Yeah,
we know Le'Veon Bell's on the market,
it's true.
and he's done absolutely nothing since he left the Steelers. Absolutely nothing.
Well,
Except to lose a lot of money.
He's lost a lot of money, and, you know, with the Jets, you sort of figured, okay, the Jets are a terrible team, no weapons on offense, he's running against a stacked box. He doesn't really have, you know, different quarterbacks, the whole mono situation, bad coaching, Adam Gase, you just sort of, you know, write that one off. But when you're with the Chiefs, and, you know, as someone that had Clyde Edwards-Helaire on my fantasy team who was just not really playing what everyone thought he was going to be, that spot was yours to take. Like, if you still had what they had with the Steelers, you know, the dual threat that wanted to be paid as both a running back and a wide receiver, if he still had all that in him, I think he would have done it. I just don't think he's got the physical. I think he's done as a running back, physical-wise, you know?
He never got off the field during Super Bowl. He played one play.
Not that I remember.
I don't remember him being in for one play.
I mean,
it's hard to believe. I mean, this was a guy that was the back.
Yeah.
Because of everything he could do. And, you know, he sat out a year, and then he said that'd be good for him because he didn't take the pounding for a year. And then he comes back, and he starts for the Jets and plays his way off the Jets. And goes to the Chiefs, which everybody thought was going to be, wow, they had Le'Veon Bell. That's going to be amazing. And total non-factor.
Total non-factor. And again,
so
you can.
If somebody picks him up, you think it'll be a 1 year deal plus incentives again?
Oh, I can't imagine anything better than that. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's going to give him a long-term deal.
But like I said, I know watching him in Kansas City, he did not look like he had the explosiveness and the speed he had when he was at the Steelers. You know, and I think everybody saw that. So, because I don't think it was a lack of effort on his part. I don't think his ability to catch or run routes or his football IQ was on display. I mean, I think all that stuff was there, but I just don't think the physical ability was there anymore. And I don't know if he took a lot of pounding with the Steelers. You know, 300 carries, 100 receptions, a couple years, like all those incredible things he was doing. That's a lot of wear and tear on the body. That's why average running back has like the shortest lifespan of any NFL player.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah,
Interesting times.
And the Chiefs, you know, they signed Tooney from the Patriots because their offensive line obviously cost them the Super Bowl. Because Mahomes was running for his life the second they snapped the ball. And then Howie Long's son, who sat out last year and looks like a WWE superstar right now, he signed with the Chiefs. And he was an all-pro playing incredible football before, so it'll be interesting to see if they can, you know, sort of get their stuff going again. And then the Patriots, I guess we got to talk about them. They say you can't win free agency by spending money. And the Patriots spent all the money.
Were you shocked about the Cam Newton signing?
No, I think that was their Ben Roethlisberger move, only theirs was much more financially sound. Where we technically don't have anything else we trust right now. And whereas I feel like the Steelers should have just let themselves sort of bottom out, I think given Belichick's age, that just wasn't an option. And all indications were that he was a really good locker room guy. And, you know, he's come back on a 1-year deal for like less than $5 million. So I assume if they get somebody in the draft or they bring somebody else in, like he's not guaranteed to start.
Right.
But then, you know, you signed 2 tight ends. And I know they had the best success when they had Gronkowski and the Murderer, but I don't think that's going to happen with these two. Most people don't seem to like Hunter Henry. And the deal people keep talking about is they like the Evan Bourne signing from San Francisco, wide receiver. But that Aguilar had kind of washed out. He was on a 1-year prove-it deal with the Raiders. Now, he played really well for the Raiders. But then Belichick gave him like 2 years guaranteed at $25 million, which seems like a lot of money for Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah.
And
now,
then
did they sign Matthew Judon?
They did.
That to me was a good signing.
Yeah, it's weird because the analytics guys don't love that signing. They said that while Judon is a very solid player, they don't feel like he's the kind of guy that can create his own sacks. Like, if you can scheme it, but that's exactly what Belichick does, is scheme. And Judon seems like a smart guy that knows where to be, and that's exactly what Belichick wants. But yeah, I mean, you look at teams that have typically spent a lot of money over the years in free agency, like the Redskins famously did 1 year. It usually doesn't work out.
Yeah. It seems like the most criticized signing, though, is the Bud Dupree signing.
Which I'm kind of shocked at. I thought, when the Steelers drafted Bud Dupree, he was 21, an absolute physical freak. 6'4", 260 pounds, ran a 4.440. And granted, he didn't really break out until his last 2 seasons with the Steelers, but he wasn't bad. He just,
He didn't get any sacks.
He didn't get any sacks.
Which is what they're paying him for.
Which is what you're paying him for.
But he's not with J.J. Watt anymore, and they each made each other much better than I think they are.
Oh, I think so. But they were saying, I actually saw a little rumor today that, one free agent out there still is Jadeveon Clowney, and they linked him with the Steelers to replace Bud Dupree, who was on the Titans. Yeah. And Clowney is, I think you can almost look at Clowney and Bud Dupree very similar. They're both physical specimens that know what position to be in, and they're great against the run. But they don't typically produce a lot of sacks over the course of their careers.
No. Clowney had so much hype coming out of college and has not lived up to it.
No. But he's been an outstanding run defender, and, he sets the edge. He does the things he's supposed to do. He just hasn't been the pass rusher people remember, And didn't Clowney was the guy that crushed that Michigan running back, right?
Yep.
Just destroyed him. And I think that, like I said, it's, it's been like 7 years, and I still remember that very vividly. I feel like that got him drafted that high. It was one of those, nobody talks that he had a clean shot and he missed a block, but he just destroyed a running back. And, then you had the physical traits, and that was it.
Yeah. He absolutely did. Let's talk about NBA.
Okay.
So, big injury to LeBron.
Big injury to LeBron.
You got LeBron and AD both out for a while. AD definitely coming back before LeBron.
Probably. Who knows? It's Anthony Davis at this point.
High ankle sprain. Got to be minimum 2 weeks, probably closer to 3, I would think.
Yeah.
And we got the Suns, and we got Utah, we got Denver all playing very well. And so, the Lakers could fall to the 6th seed.
They could. They could very easily fall to the 6th seed.
Well, let the Clippers out. So you got a lot of teams there, and now you got this up. But we do know the Lakers are going to spend some money this week and get somebody that somebody else is trying to liquidate salary.
Yeah.
They're going to get at least one buyout player.
I think the most intriguing piece that seems realistically that won't be where the team they're at right now. It's pretty obviously Bradley Beal's not going anywhere. But Victor Oladipo, Houston seems to want out of his. Houston's just trying to bottom out. They don't want him, and he doesn't want to be there. So that's the most intriguing. And it seems like because he's a free agent to be, I don't think you're going to have to give up much to get him, Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up and if he can find himself into a role or if he's going to try to play himself into a bigger contract. But, because I feel like if you're getting Oladipo and you're a good team, you basically want him to come in and run your second unit,
Yeah.
And I don't know if Victor Oladipo is willing to do that this season or not. I think that would look good for him. And I think smart organization would recognize what he was doing. But I know he's got, long-term big money deal on it, because he turned down a pretty lucrative 2-year deal from Houston already. But he's the only, I think realistic name, because it sounds like Atlanta, who's won 7 straight, and is playing really well with their new coach. I don't think they're moving John Collins.
No, in fact, John Collins had a big night last night against the Lakers.
Yeah, and it seems like, Nate McMillan as the new coach has really, unlocked something down in Atlanta. And they're about to get a couple guys back and get healthy, so unless they get bowled over. I don't know why the Magic insist on keeping Vucevic, but I don't think he's going to move. And I don't know who the other, any other major pieces that would go that would really make a difference.
No. I feel sorry for? I love Portland's backcourt.
Yeah.
And nothing else.
Well, Anthony Simons proved he's a pretty good dunker.
I would love to see Portland get a couple pieces so those guys could really compete.
Yeah, it seems like they've swung the fence. They've swung for the fences on a few of those, and they've just never paid off. And then they've done the thing where Anthony Simons, he had a lot of. I think it's that tough situation where do you trade the guy you think has a lot of promise, or do you sell high on a young player that other teams are buying the hype on? Because remember, Anthony Simons for like 2 seasons was like, look out, this guy looks incredible in practice. Once he gets out there, he's going to really take off. He's an incredible athlete. He was in the dunk contest just now, but I feel like his value as a trade piece has gone way down.
Yeah.
And I don't know,
They need something.
Yeah.
To go with those two guys. Otherwise, I mean, those guys are really, really good. And it would be interesting to me to see how good they were on a really, really competitive team.
Yeah.
Not a good team. They're a good team. There's not what I would call a competitive team. In other words, they're not going to make it. If they win a first-round playoff series, they're not going to win a second-round playoff series.
No, I think depending on the matchup, they could win a first-round series, and then if Dame and McCollum are both hot for most of a series, they could knock somebody off. But I don't think they could pull off, then the conference win, then the finals. Like, I don't think they have that kind of team.
No, they don't.
But, I could see them beating the Lakers in a series.
Yeah, because where the Lakers are the weakest, that's where the Portland's the strongest.
Yeah.
They're exactly flip-flopped.
Exactly flip-flopped. And Dame, we've seen. Dame can carry a team. I mean, he's been incredible this year. I mean, not that he's been incredible forever, but he just tearing it up. He's very fun to watch.
If you put Dame and McCollum with LeBron and AD, can you imagine what that team would be like?
No.
That team would be scary. I mean, that team could win 75 games.
Yeah, when you think about, like, just given the sort of player he is, like, do you think there's I don't know, who would do this trade or how it would happen, but if there was something where McCollum and some combination of Vucevic and Aaron Gordon were like the main pieces going back and forth, where, Dame becomes pretty much the backcourt guy, but then you give him a big that can stretch the floor and another rim runner, like, that's a pretty good team,
It's a better team.
It's probably a better
because
team.
It's more balanced.
More balanced, yeah. But like I said,
they would match up better because they have some bigger players that could do things in matchups now where they can't do anything.
Right.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing where Cade Cunningham ends up. I guess he could be a Timberwolf. He could be a Cavalier. Maybe he could be a Thunder.
Yeah, well, because you look, I think Thunder would be pretty awesome. But although Thunder, it's him and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the backcourt. But you figure if you go to Minnesota, you got D'Angelo Russell there, who I know has missed a lot of time this year, and then Anthony Edwards is really a 2, who was put up 40 the other night. So then you got a backcourt of those 3. And I go, Cade Cunningham is 6'8", so he gives you a lot of defensive flexibility. He's a great passer, but I don't know. Minnesota's become one of those places I don't really want to see anybody go.
It's sad. I have some good friends there, so.
Yeah, and I don't know how they turn it all around, but it just seems like there's just, there's just something over that team that just doesn't seem to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have no food moments this week, sadly. I wish I had some for you.
And I had no food moments because I had all my food moments last week.
Yeah,
But I do have an entertainment moment. Jason sent me a text the other day talking about the possibility of a new Justified relaunch with the Elmore Leonard estate with Timothy Oliphant possibly. And I sent that out and I shared that on social media. And I cannot believe the number of positive responses I got to that and how excited people were about the possibility of some iteration of that show coming back.
Yeah.
So I came down to our condo, and my sister-in-law Janet had seen it, and so she had started rewatching Justified. So Sharon and I started rewatching Justified with Janet the last couple of nights, and I got to tell you, that show is just absolutely amazing, and I can't tell you how much I miss it. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate Walter Goggins in the role that he was meant to do, and not these stupid roles that he's been in with McBride and this unicorn show that don't take advantage of his ability.
No, it's true. And the crazy thing, this is the little Justified trivia, is Walter Goggins was not supposed to leave the pilot. He was supposed to be in the pilot, and then we'd never see him again.
Yeah, he's not even listed as an actor for like the first 7 or 8 episodes.
Yeah.
Like when they list all the people, he's not listed. He's like at the end when they show, once they do the opening credits, he's not in the opening credits. And then the show starts, and then it's and he's one of those. So you can tell how much of an impact, an unexpected impact, I guess I'll say, that he had in that show.
Well, I think, he and Oliphant just had such amazing chemistry. And then he was, like you said, it seems like there's always a role that is just the person's best role. It's like they were just made for it. And he was made for that part. And, they just had to keep him. They just, you couldn't even do anything about it.
Well, did you know he was a stand-up comic first?
I did not.
No, neither did I. And then, so Gina went down the rabbit hole and found that out. That's how he started his career.
Yeah.
As a stand-up comic. You could tell, because that's why that Raylan sense of humor is so successful and has such a good bite to it, because he has great timing.
It's true, he really
does. Great
does.
Delivery.
And for our listeners, in case you care, I introduced Dad to the show because I brought the DVDs to his house when he was having knee surgery.
And I'll tell you, it's one of my favorite series of all time.
Yeah, because
So I've decided now I'm going to watch it in its entirety, episode by episode again, back to back.
Yeah. And where is it? Is it on Prime? No.
It's on Hulu.
On Hulu, okay. I was like, it's on one of the streaming services I own. But yeah, and
it's on Hulu, and it's probably still on FX On Demand, I would think.
Oh, I'm positive it's on that. Yeah. And I gave Dad this caveat when I brought the shows over, because I was in grad school. I'd stop, get lunch, and then we'd hang out for a little while, and till my mom got home. And it gets a little bad guy of the week for about 5 or 6 episodes after the opener, but that's not really what the show is. Still very good, but it's not really episode to episode kind of
No, it has the best antagonist and best protagonist I've ever seen paired up in anything I've ever watched in my life. So if you've never watched Justified, Jason and I are telling you, go watch Justified.
Yes, because then you'll also be ready when whatever that finally does come out, hopefully. And we started, in my house, rewatching the second season of The Servant, which is the M. Night Shyamalan Apple TV original series.
And how is that?
The first season is, like lots of his stuff, for the first season, it's really intriguing. You're on the edge of your seat. It's got some cult stuff to it, some maybe religious stuff, maybe a little supernatural. You're not exactly sure what's happening. The second season has been good. We just had hopes that it would go. I don't want to give any spoilers away. Basically, when the season 1 ends, you think the show might be going in a certain direction, but it doesn't seem to go in that direction.
Got it.
And not in like it would have been a different twist, just that we stay with one group of people more than I thought. I thought we'd get to move around a little bit more than we have. So, but we already watched the first 5 episodes, and I think part of our Sunday might be watching some more. And they're only I thought the first season was longer, but apparently they're only 27-minute episodes. So everyone knows in the streaming days, you sit on your couch, you can crank through quite a few pretty quick.
All right, I'm gonna start watching season 1 of that. If you haven't seen season 1 of City on a Hill with Kevin Bacon, set in Boston in the early 90s, it's on Showtime, and they're rebroadcasting all the old episodes now, and the new season starts a week from today. And I thought it was a really, really well done series. So, City on the Hill would be my other recommendation.
Okay.
But sad to say, no food moment for me either.
No, hopefully next week.
It's not the week after. Well, I am going to Pittsburgh for Pirates opening day, so I know I'll have some food stories that week.
Yeah. I did eat it smoked, which I've talked about on the podcast before, and it was delicious again. And it is in a new location. As I had a bit of an embarrassing story. I went to pick up smoked, and I wasn't even paying attention, so I drove into the normal spot, and I walked in, and I didn't smell barbecue from the parking lot, which should have been an indicator, but you're wearing masks nowadays, so I thought maybe, I could smell my own mask maybe, and that's why I couldn't smell the barbecue. But then as I was standing there watching, they have a giant menu in chalk on the wall, which the new place does as well. But I realized that none of these things sounded like they were smoked, and then I used the excuse if I was meeting someone and I had to go to Smoke, which now had moved like 2 blocks down the street. So, because I did not want to eat at this new place. It did not look or smell very good. I'm not sure it's long for this world.
Well, everyone, enjoy your March Madness this week. I'm also excited about the women's Final Four because I love this freshman Paige Buechler for Connecticut, and I'm going to watch them and see if they can win. Now they did win for the last couple of years. I want to see where they are, and they have all underclassmen, all freshmen, sophomores, and I think a junior. I love Gino Armiam as a great coach. I love the way his teams play. So I'll be watching that as well, and hopefully we have some more wild and woolly upsets this week. And so next week we'll be talking halfway through the Sweet 16.
I think the NBA trade deadline will pass too, right?
Yep. We probably have some more NFL signings.
Yeah. Maybe a little more draft talk.
If you get the SEC Network, look for Vanderbilt baseball and watch some of the best pitching you ever seen.
Definitely. And I guess we'll talk to you next week.